Hi guys, this is part 2 of Geronimo Stilton, Cat and Mouse in the Haunted House. I'm too fond of my whiskers. Teeth chattering, I entered a dark and gloomy hall. Suddenly, another bolt of lightning struck close by. The blood-red window panes glowed like the eyes of a hungry cat. I jumped. Talk about a fur-raising experience. I headed down a dark corridor. It led me to a heavy wooden door. May I come in? And anybody home? I stuttered, pushing open the door. In front of me was a huge room filled with antique furniture. Dust and cobwebs hung over the sofas like unwanted guests in the morning after a party. Gigantic paintings of cats from centuries long ago covered the walls. I was glad not to be living in that period. Too many cats back then. Then I noticed a velvet wall hanging with embroidered writing. It reads, "This castle belongs to the most honorable Duke Big Paw Caney Cat." Caney Cat? That reminded me of something. I closed my eyes and pictured my precious set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, what was that I had read about Caney Cat? Oh, yes, of course. The Caney Cats were leaders in the Great Battle of Waterloo. It took place in 1754. The cats and rats fought courageously with paws and claws. Of course, as every mouse knows, the rodents won. Since Waterloo, there have been no cats on our island. Just then, I noticed a plaque above the fireplace. I crept closer for a look. My whiskers began to tremble as I read the writing. "Oh, you foolish rodent, who has made it this far. I bet you don't know how unlucky you are. Retrace your steps and hit the old trail if you wish to save your miserable tail. Meow." Now I was shaking all over. I started to back away and bumped into a bookcase. A big, fat book landed on my right paw. Cheese niblets! That book weighed more than a 10-ton block of cheddar. I screeched, hopping around like the Easter rat. Seconds later, I tripped over the carpet. I landed snout first in the fireplace. Now I was covered in ashes from head to tail. How would I explain this mess to Starchet, the cute mouse at the dry cleaners? I tried to grab the edge of the fireplace, but missed. Instead, I grabbed a doily with a heavy silver tray on it. The tray bonked me in the head. Rotten rat's teeth, I was going to have some lump on my head. I wouldn't be able to wear a hat for weeks, of course. Of course, I never really wore a hat. It would clash with my suit and my tie. But now I wouldn't have a choice, I sighed, leaning against the suit of armor standing beside the fireplace. Big mistake. The armor tumbled to the floor. Whoosh! The sharp hatchet nearly took off my snout. "I'm too fond of my whiskers," I shouted. I got up in a daze, trying to steady myself. Then I noticed a mirror over the fireplace. I peered into it. In the dim light, I saw a horrifying sight. A ghost with a gray snout was staring back at me. I let out an ear-splitting squeak. Who are you? What do you want?" I stammered. I turned, ready to run. The ghost turned too. I nervously twirled my tail. The ghost twirled its tail. I leaned forward and pointed at the ghost. It pointed back at me. "Oops," I mumbled. "That's no ghost. That's just me. How could I be such a nincompoop? Oh, how I wish I was home." Mouse bones and rat skeletons. I left the room and scurried down the hall. Soon I came to a wooden door with a sign on it. It read, "Kitchen." I went in. The place was huge. You could cook dinner for 100 mice in this place. There was a huge wood-burning stove, pots and pans of every size and shape, and a massive fridge. I opened a side door and found myself in the cellar. I spotted some cans of tuna fish, some dried meat, and a big block of Swiss cheese. It smelled delicious. So the castle was inhabited, after all. But by whom? That was still a mystery. I crept back into the wood-burning stove. A huge copper pot hung inside the fireplace. It had a picture of a snarling cat engraved on it. I looked closer and noticed a strange white object lying inside the pot. I picked it up to study it. Sour cheese chunks! It was a bone. A mouse bone. I flung the bone back into the pot. Then I looked around, terrified. What was this place? I decided I didn't want to stick around to find out. I had to make a run for it before I ended up like the poor mouse in the pot. No fur, just bone. In a panic, I flung open the first door I saw. Behind it was a closet. I wish I could say I found a puffy chef's hat and a matching apron in the closet. My Uncle Hot Paw wears this silly apron at our annual family barbecues. It has a picture of a smiling mouse juggling kittens on it. But there was no apron in this closet. Instead, there was a skeleton of a humongous rat. Oh, how I wished I was home. I'm scarier than most. My heart was hammering away like one of those rodents on the mouse hole improvement shows. I raced out of the kitchen as fast as my paws could carry me. I guess you know by now, I'm not the most courageous mouse on the block. I scurried into the castle's library. Ah, the library. It was my favorite place to be. Being a brainy mouse, I loved to surround myself with books. Old books, new books, I loved them all. Just the smell of a good book is enough to calm me down. And then I heard it. A strange creak from one of the shelves. I stood up and came face to face with a ghost. And this was not just any old ghost. It was the ghost of a cat. The ghost raced toward me, dragging along a set of chains. It began to meow in a scary voice. Meow. I'm old, sliced paws ghost. I'm scarier than most. Once you see me, you're toast. Better head for the coast. Meow. I'm old, sliced paw ghost. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to squeak for my mommy at the top of my lungs. But I was frozen with fear. Just then I heard another creaking sound. As if by magic, the ghost disappeared. Oh, how I wished I was home. Geronimo, quit the hysterics. I bolted down the hall and flew out the door. Help! I squeaked into the dark, rainy night. But of course, no one answered. How could they? There wasn't a paw or tail in sight. I was alone, yes, all alone in the spooky, dark forest. Oh, how I wished I was home. I shivered. My whiskers were getting soaked. Now what? Before I could come up with a plan, my cell phone rang. It was working again. It played classical music. For a minute, I let myself enjoy the soothing sounds of Ratweg van Beethoven. What an amazing composer. And then I remembered where I was and what I had just seen in the castle. Poisonous cheese puffs, I shrieked into the phone. Who is it? You've got to help me. It was my sister, Thea. Geronimo? Where are you? What's going on? She asked calmly. I was back in full panic mode. The bone, the castle, the kitchen. That was the skeleton and the armor too, all because of the fog. And I saw a light in the window, but there was no one here. I stammered, Holy cheese, I'm scared. Come save me. My sister sighed. She's the exact opposite of me. That mouse would stay calm even if she got stuck in a tornado and touched down at the catwalk seaside resort. Geronimo, quit the hysterics, she ordered in a no-nonsense voice. Now tell me exactly where you are. I stared into the night. I don't know. I'm somewhere in the dark forest, I began. I passed Sad Sack Point, but I got lost. Then my car broke down, and I found this castle. It's empty, but... My sister snorted. Why are you getting your whiskers in a twist, then? She scolded. If you're at a castle, just pick a room and hit the sack. Tomorrow morning, you could find the main road and go home. Cheese niblets, you really are making a mountain out of a mouse hill sometimes. I peered back at the castle. But I don't want to sleep here, I whined. The castle's empty. It's too scary. And it's much too dark. Of course, my sister had an answer for everything. She pointed out that I would not need light since I was going to sleep anyway. Then she called me a fraidy mouse. I was insulted, but I was too afraid to say so. Is there anything to eat? My sister asked. I told her about the cheese I had found at the kitchen. That's great. What more do you want? She demanded. You're at a castle and you have cheese. I reminded her about the mouse bone in the kitchen, not to mention the hideous rat skeleton hiding in the closet. Oh, brother. You've got one active imagination, she scoffed. Bones and skeletons. Maybe you should try cleaning your glasses, or maybe you should have a little chat with Dr. Shrinkfur. I think you're seeing things. I heard the splashing of water. Thea must have been taking her nightly bath. Oh, how I wished I was home in my own bathtub. I could be the one relaxing in lots of bubbles. I could be playing with my squeaky cheese bath toy. Suddenly, a noise interrupted my happy thoughts. It was coming from the big hall inside the castle. Listen, Thea, I whispered. You won't believe this, but I've seen a ghost. My sister coughed. A ghost? You mean a real ghost? She squeaked. Yes, it was a real ghost, I repeated. Thea was silent. I knew she was trying to decide if I was telling the truth. I don't know why my family never believes me. I mean, I am a newspaper mouse. I tell it the way I see it. Listen, Thea. I know a ghost when I see one, I insisted, and this was a real honest-to-goodness ghost. I heard a lot of splashing around. It sounded like my sister was getting out of the tub. Seconds later, she came back on the line. Well, why didn't you tell me about this ghostly guy in the first place? What a cheese brain, she squeaked. Her squeak was ear-splitting. This could have been a great ghost scoop. I'm on my way, Thea cried. I'll take pictures. The paper will sell like hot cheesecakes. Bye. She slammed down the receiver. I was left listening to the dial tone. I stared at the castle. It reminded me of when I used to go trick-or-treating as a young mouselet. There was one mouse hole on the block that was supposed to be haunted. My cousin Trap would ring the doorbell. Then we'd all go scampering away. One time my tail got caught in the front gate. I was never so scared in my whole life. I cried so much my candy got soaking wet. Everyone made fun of me for weeks. It was awful. Just then, I was hit by a sudden thought. Rat-munching rattlesnakes, I squeaked. Today is October 31st. It is the spookiest day of the year. Halloween. Oh, how I wish I was home. The cat's eye. I tried to call my sister back, but I couldn't get through. What should I do? I decided to follow her advice and go to bed. I took a deep breath and headed back to the castle. Then I slowly began to climb up the creaking staircase that led to the upper floor. I had found a candle in the entrance hall. By the light of the flickering flame, I saw the portraits of the Candy Cat family. I read the names. Duke Big Paw Candy Cat, Duchess Curly Paw Candy Cat, Picky Paw Candy Cat. What a perfectly frightening family. At least to a mouse, that is. Then I passed Duke Slice Paw Candy Cat's portrait. I had a feeling I was being watched. A cold shiver made my fur stand on end. I turned around. Nothing. I crept a little further, and then I turned around again. I saw the eyes of Slice Paw's portraits glow like they were alive. Yes, I was sure of it now. Those eyes were following me as I climbed the stairs. I checked the paintings, just as I thought. The eyes had holes in them. Someone was spying on me. I hurried down the dark hallway. I quickly yanked open the first door I saw. I closed it behind me, out of breath. So I'm going to leave off here, and we are on page 38, and we'll pick up on part 3 next time.